What's up, everybody? Dan Sports News here, bringing you the 12th episode of the Dansportsnews and Friends podcast. You can follow me on Twitter at Dansportsnews, Instagram at I am Dansportsnews, and Facebook at Dansportsnews to catch all my latest articles and news in sports. Today's guest is Constantine Maroulis, who was a finalist on Season 4 of American Idol. He has done Rock of Ages and many other shows, as well as sing at many sporting events, from Yankees games to Knicks games. Check it out. How old were you when you first started singing?
I come from a big Greek family. I think I came out the womb singing and rocking and rolling, if you know what I mean. I've got lots of personality in my family, for sure. And my brother and sister are much older than me, but I always worshipped them. And they were into cool music, and they performed in school plays and whatnot, so I wanted to be just like them. So I think from a very early age I knew, and I had a big voice even as a young kid, for sure. But I had no confidence, and I wasn't shy, but I definitely had a fear of being on stage for many years.
So when did you decide that you want to pursue music and make it your full-time career?
I think it chooses you. I think growing up in the 80s and the 90s, so many legendary acts, MTV, music was such a big part of pop culture, records and going to concerts. And, I was also bit by the acting bug very early on, so I would be involved with musical theater shows and chorus and different performances. So for me, I loved sports, and I played sports from day one. But, they were one and the same. It was like I would go to a rehearsal, and then I would go to, football practice. I did a little of everything as a kid growing up, and very lucky. I was born in the city in Brooklyn, but I grew up in a great suburb of northern New Jersey, and we have a wonderful community here, great support for the arts and scholastics and athletics. So just really wonderful for me, and lots of support. There are a lot of kids that don't have that support. So I was very lucky, for sure.
So when did you decide that you wanted to audition for American Idol?
I really grew up in the performing arts, doing all the shows and whatnot in school, playing in school bands, rock bands, cover bands, whatnot. And when I was, working in high school, doing a lot of plays and whatnot, I knew that was my life. I knew it was what I wanted to pursue. I got tons of experience after high school, touring in bands, playing in New York City, auditioning for shows, booking some shows, got my equity card, which is an important piece of the puzzle as a young actor who performs in the theater. That meant that I was a professional now, and I could, audition for a different level of work. I was guaranteed certain salary points, insurance, whatnot. So I started piecing all of those things kind of together, and I had a great mentorship from an actress named Jillian Arminante and my brother, Ethan Maroulis, who, if you Google, is kind of a big deal himself in his own underground goth world. He's put out tons of records, done lots of writing and producing and whatnot. So always had great advice. But I wasn't really ready for college right after high school. I went part-time locally. William Patterson had an amazing music program, and I was still auditioning. And it wasn't until maybe my early 20s, 21 or so, I had a bad year, let's just say. And I was looking for a way to take my training, my experiences to the next level, and that's when I heard about the Boston Conservatory at Berklee College of Music. I loved, the idea of going to Boston, whatnot, getting out of the city, getting out of my sort of, town bubble I was in, and testing myself against the best. And that's what I did. I auditioned. I got into school. I had some college credit. I transferred into the second year of the program. I hustled. I got all the leads in school. I got the best training in the world. I, every summer, explored different opportunities, whether it was Seacoast Repertory, theater, or Gloucester Stage Company, playing in bands in Boston, put myself through school, because at that point my parents were like, we're not paying for this at 21, 22
Right.
now you want to go to school, So for me, that was the best decision I ever made, because I met amazing people there that are still my best friends. And so I had this trajectory of sort of my training, my experiences, and after school, I had a great apprenticeship at the Williamstown Theater Festival. But my last year there was tough. I lost my first cousin in 9/11, and I was tore up. My whole family was just devastated. And, I questioned what I was doing. Was this even worth it? And then I soon realized, you know what? This might be the only thing that's worth it. What I'm doing is healing people. Like, we go out there, we entertain, we take people on an escape, on an evening of, like magical adventures, whether it's in the theater or at a rock show. So I delved back into my experiences, training and whatnot, and my post sort of grad and Boston work. And I booked Rent, which was a huge Broadway show at the time, and I toured with Rent. And I played Roger, and that was a great experience for me for sure, because I could bring my band out, and we played shows after Rent shows, and we had fans, and just started to build those experiences. And it wasn't until Rent was like, you were awesome, thank you, but we're not renewing your contract. And I'm like, 26, 27. And I was like, okay, back to the grind. And that's when I auditioned for American Idol. I had no idea what was going on. I was in school. I was on the road. This was the early, 2000s, essentially.
Right.
2004, whatever it was, so I didn't really comb the internet like we do now.
So
I'd heard of the show, but I'd never seen it. And then, so I think a lot of what played well for me is I went into it like I needed a job, like it was an opportunity, just like in rock and roll or musical theater. And they had the cameras on me from day one. And then, certainly that opportunity changed my life for sure.
So you never watched the show before, so you didn't realize that there was an age limit at the time, or they changed it when you got
I only knew that that summer, that audition, they had changed the rules. They upped the age limit, where you had to be 28 by a certain time or something like that. And an old girlfriend of mine's like, let's go. And I was like, what are we doing? And we took the $10 Chinatown bus down to D.C. We cut the line. And we got a bracelet. And then we went and, chilled out in a hotel for a night or two, because it was a mob scene. It was literally 20,000, 30,000 people showed up. I mean, it was crazy. Carrie Underwood was there also, because she auditioned out of D.C., and we ended up being finalists together, So for me, it was like I was never going to beat Carrie Underwood. I just needed to make a huge impact and get my name out there and create opportunities for myself. I knew that it wasn't just like, I've made it. Like, yes, everyone knows who you are now, especially then when 30 million people a night were watching. But I still knew that blue-collar Jersey attitude, Greek-American, work ethic, I still need to take this and turn it into something else. And I just kept putting these 5-year plans together. I had the 5-year plan for Boston, the 5-year plan after that. And then it was like, what are the next 5 and 10 years, So for me, it was about, I wanted to make an impact, but I really wanted to be an actor also. So I wanted to create, something amazing for Broadway, something amazing for television. And, I got a big television deal. Those shows didn't work out. I ended up doing soap opera and whatnot and a lot of guest stars. But My show with Kelsey Grammer didn't work out, but hey, I was in the room, man. And then, of course, Rock of Ages, came together, and that was really my Jesus takes the wheel, if you know what I mean.
Right. So you finished ultimately in sixth.
I hope you're recording, by the way.
Yeah, for sure. So you finished sixth ultimately in American Idol. Do you ever talk with the other finalists still or not?
For sure. Actually, it's funny you mention it. I was just on a tour. We built a show for Hard Rock Hotel and Casino properties, global, all over the world, and with a company called Alliance Connection. And, it was a bunch of cool ex-idols. We put on a big show. We just played, all throughout the Caribbean. We were in Punta Cana, Dominican Republic, with Hard Rock Hotel and Casino. It was freaking awesome. And, we're talking about some of the most I get to work with amazing people. Broadway, there's really no one better. But these are some of the hand-picked, select, best idol singers, ever. And we put on a hell of a show. So, yeah, there are a lot of opportunities still for us to work together. And I did Jekyll and Hyde with Diana DeGarmo last year. Her husband, Ace Young, is a great friend. She just put out her record, Gemini, a little plug for her. I went to the CD release the other night in New York City. That was great. I'm seeing Taylor Hicks in September. I was with Bo Bice and Matt Gerard and Holly Kavanaugh and Candace Glover, who won American Idol, with Clark Beckham. I was with all of those guys this summer. So, we do cross paths, and certainly I've stayed in touch with Carrie and her management over the years, but she's such a big star, it's a big deal, to even get close to her. But I'm friends with people from all the other seasons. I think I was like everyone's older brother in a way, because I truly am the oldest.
Right.
Because of the way the math worked out, where our season, they had 3 seasons before us. So even people from the first season are actually not quite my age or Bo's age. There's a bunch of us that are all in the same age range, but I'm technically months older than the next. So, because our season, they upped the age limit, it makes me, the grandfather idol for sure.
Now, do they still do age limits? Do you know or not?
They do. They definitely do. Some of the other shows don't, but definitely Idol. And I think it's still really good. Megan Michaels, Wolfnick, one of the best producers in television. She's been there from day one. She's the executive producer now, and a lot of the old people are there. They've allowed it to evolve. It's been really, really good. Now, look, no one is going to watch like they used to watch, dude. People would, run out of restaurants to get home to watch Idol because, dude, they had 25, 30 million people a night watching it. We had 3 nights a week we were on. That was in a different time. There's so much content out there now. No one's going to be able to do that again. That's Super Bowl numbers. That's unreal. And we're just in a different place now. There's just so much content, so much competition. And, of course, the show, it's still a huge brand, but anything over that many years is going to wane a bit, But I don't think the quality has waned. But it is tough for these kids to do things because it's, another American Idol, another American Idol, okay. But look, there are opportunities. They come off the show. They still have millions of followers. People should know them, but they have to act fast. They're not acting fast enough these last many years, They're not getting their project out there soon enough. It's not grabbing legs. They don't have a Rock of Ages. They don't have a Jesus Takes the Wheel. But what's in between those things, So that's what I encourage people to find. And I do a lot of coaching and, I'm opening a school. And, there's a lot of sort of stuff in that space that we work on branding and, trying to focus people's intention and and focus their objectives, where are you going? What do you want? What are you going to do with this? So I know you're a sports guy. I'm a big sports guy, and
Yeah, I was going to
for
get...
me, there's so much parallel in sports to like what we're doing, and what I teach young performers a lot of the time is, I'd rather see you be like, okay, to pull out an obscure Yankees reference, I'd rather see you be like a Scott Brocious, a guy that has a 15-year career, and before he comes to the Yankees, he's probably played 10 years already. You just didn't know who he was. He was just a solid team guy, great defense, just a nice piece. He comes to New York. He plays his role. He's a valuable piece on an all-time championship team. He's not the star, but he ends up getting like an MVP or whatever. But someone like that has the slow burn over a 2-decade period, I'd rather you be that person, he, she, they, than try to be Derek Jeter, because that's impossible. That's the hard part. That's really hard. But like, if you want to work on longevity and a nice slow burn over a whole career, I think, we can get you there. And there are ways to do that. So it's a beautiful time, man. It's a beautiful thing. And my Giants are looking good. I'm telling you right now, we made a lot of fixes.
Right.
Addition by subtraction. And my Yankees are rolling. And I'm happy for the Mets, too, but my Yanks are just rolling right now. I mean, they're so injured still. There's a new wave of injuries that came in, and they're still freaking rolling like, whoever out there. Cameron Maben, I don't care, anyone, and they're still making, they're still winning games. It's crazy.
Tauchman's been unbelievable. Mike Tauchman.
Yeah, what did you say?
Mike Tauchman, he's been unbelievable. I think LeMahieu should be...
Tauchman is my favorite player. Yeah. I loved to pick up my buddy from Sports Illustrated, he's a big writer, Jimmy Traina, and he was like, I was like, dude, this is a great pickup. This is like one of those gold nugget Cashman pickups. He's just like, the guy's like 28. He's coming into his prime. He was undervalued, underappreciated. He gets on base. He plays great defense. And frankly, he looks like Brett Gardner at the plate or something. This guy's never going to play. This guy's never going to play. You're crazy. You love everybody that Cashman gets. I was like, I'm telling you, this is one of those guys that you win with. And certainly look at this guy. I mean, they're pitching around him. I mean, honestly. And the catch he makes last night, was that ridiculous? The guy's
Phenomenal.
like 5 feet tall.
Phenomenal stuff from him.
That wasn't like one of those over-the-wall catches that kind of looked good on TV. No, like he actually arched back, and he's a lefty, so he had to go. He even throws lefty. So, he arched back like that, and I mean, that was ridiculous.
And LeMahieu, if I was voting for MVP right now, I think LeMahieu deserves it.
Well, I mean, dude, for sure. But you got LeBron James playing on the Angels, and, like, that guy is, Mike Trout, he should be a Yankee, by the way, anyhow. I've had conversations with my, let's just say, really, really big people at the Yankees, without dropping names. And, like, they were one pick away from getting Mike Trout. And then somehow, like, his high school coach made some kind of, not arrangement, but, was more in contact with the Angels. They swooped in. He was a highly touted player, for sure, but he wasn't, like, the clear number one, because he ended up going at, like, number 7 to the Angels. Yanks were about to pick him. They thought they were picking him. Can you imagine Mike Trout is playing in the pinstripes right now?
He's from New Jersey.
He'll miss games, and he'll still put up like 40 and 120 and bat 300, gets on base, steals bases, catches everything. He misses games, but he's a beast. I just don't see like how DJ LeMahieu wins it over Mike Trout. I mean, if, the postseason's not supposed to matter in that, quest for MVP, but, I mean, dude, Trout's numbers are crazy. But LeMahieu's a beast, and he is the MVP of the Yankees, and if they are the best team in the American League, then one would say, hey, he's the MVP. Trout's on a 500 team, and for whatever reason, his gaudy numbers annually don't really lead to wins. Does he not make people around him better? They've dealt with tragedy over there. I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, I think LeMahieu is definitely the MVP. The Yankees are going to cruise and make number one as the AL. I just hope that they can get it together with pitching, because the rotation's not that strong, honestly. Domingo Germán has been pitching very well. He just needs to get his ERA down, I think. But the Yankees are going to cruise into the playoffs and just hope that they can bring home the championship, because they haven't won it this decade, and they need to do it before the decade's over.
I agree. That would be great to just stick one in this year. And, the last one was 2009. I was there. That was a big year for me. I opened Rock of Ages on Broadway. I mean, what a year. The Yanks were coming to the show. They had the new stadium. A-Rod was like, had a different starlet every week. Now, J-Lo's for sure. I love her. And I've gotten to meet her a couple of times with the Idol, and she's just amazing. Yeah, those were good times for sure. They need to stick one in the 19 right here. And I think they will. Honestly, look how great. Look, first of all, they haven't lost since the trade deadline. Okay? They haven't lost a game.
They haven't lost this whole month.
They've won 9 in a row.
They haven't lost this month.
They've lost 9 in a row, 10 in a row, whatever it is. And look how good the pitching is since this trade deadline, the last time through the rotation. Paxton did his job. Look, kept him in. Probably wouldn't have kept him in as long as he did the other day in the playoffs. But give me 5+ and strike everyone out. Tanaka, obviously Germán. I think they're going to get Severino back. I love the opener. Why can't Green and Cortez be, why can't that be game 3 or something, in a series? Like, if you ask me, they scored, they hit 3 home runs a game. I mean, they're going to be fine. They don't have a shutdown. But look, they've gotten to Verlander. They certainly got to Greinke the other day.
Oh, yeah.
And Price was great in the playoffs last year, but the Yankees him. That's a bad word to use. They rake him. I think they're going to be okay. I think their guys really step up. Severino was great in the playoffs. Tanaka was great in the playoffs. AJ Happ had one start, and he gave up 5 runs to the Red Sox, who won the World Series. Okay. They have so many arms. If they can't win with those arms and figure it out, trust me, they're going to get creative. This kid, Davey Garcia, is going to end up playing a big part in this. Bro, they just need to get healthy. I'd love to see Stanton in the mix, but, I mean, that guy, I don't know, man.
Yeah, I don't know about Stanton.
I mean, is Ellsbury available? I'd take Ellsbury at this point. Let's run some bats out there.
Ellsbury hasn't played.
We're winning.
Yeah, Ellsbury hasn't played in 3 years. I don't know what's going on over there.
Encarnacion is out for at least a month or 2. Watch. That was a huge pickup. And he was just getting really hot. That's a bummer. These injuries might catch up with us, to be honest. There's only so much. It's hard to be negative, but it's Torres is out. I was saying to myself, all right, Torres and Encarnacion are going to have to carry us. Judge is, slow. Didi's out right now. Obviously Stanton. Sanchez will come back. It's cool. When you're so stacked, you get these guys back piece by piece, and then they become the new guy. But we've never got to run this whole freaking team out there for a few weeks at a time, except for the first 10 days of the season, which sucked for us,
Right. But yeah, everybody's been stepping up. Cameron Maven, all around the board, the team's been hitting it out of the park.
I mean, it's Cashman. Cashman's the MVP, and I've gotten to like the guy and know him, and I'm a big fan. But like, really, him and his team, his office, they're the MVPs. You know, they've done a great job. They've just done a great job, man. All these guys have paid off. Like, Canely kind of took a year off, but the year they got him, he was great, so they knew. And these relievers, sometimes they have that off year, their arm, you know, they overwork, and then the next year they're amazing again. Green, you get back. You get Chapman to come back to your team, but you trade him for freaking Torres. You know, the Andrew Miller trade was great. I think, you know, Clint Frazier is going to be interesting. Like, what's going to happen with him? They're obviously mad at him. They're over him. He had a huge night last night in the minors. Made great plays, hit home runs. Like, are you really not going to call this guy up right now?
I mean, honestly, they have to call him up or trade him for some big-name players at this point, because the guy is phenomenal. He's so young, and he can do it all.
But obviously he did or said something that pissed them off. They're not happy with him, and they banished him. But right now, he should just come up and be the DH. But they know better than us, and I know that. But something happened, something bad, and, you know, that's what's up right now. Unless they're totally desperate, I don't think you're going to see him.
Right. Now, switching over back to music, I know you sang the national anthem at a lot of these sporting events. What are some of the games that you sang at?
Oh, man, you know, it's always an honor to perform the national anthem. It's not for everyone, I'll tell you that much, because, you know, for me, being like a musical theater guy as well as a rock and roller, I think it's always benefited me because I sort of do the song almost like a scene, you know, so I never forget the words because I'm not thinking about them, because I see this beautiful sort of, you know, storyboard that I'm singing and I'm, you know, I have in my head, you know, so it's always an honor to perform. But, you know, oh God, I've done the NFL game of the week in San Francisco with the Niners. I've done, you know, opening day at Yankee Stadium. I've done, you know, Barclays, MSG, you know, tons of games. The Jets last year, the Giants. I've done the Patriots home openers. So I'm sure there's plenty of YouTubes. I've done the Islanders more recently out of Brooklyn and the Nets. So good stuff, man, you know, and I was trying to do it just like a little different each time, too. But, you know, real singing, power singing, passion, and it's my favorite song to perform for sure.
What's the atmosphere like singing in Madison Square Garden in front of all those fans?
Well, it's always cool because, you know, I think there's a level of, oh, this freaking guy's going to sing the anthem, you know, when they announce you know, and then you win them over with, like, just like a sick rendition, power, all the notes, and then they go nuts, and it's pretty great. And I add a little spice in there. It's interesting during the hockey games because, you know, they have their little chant they do during the anthem sometimes, too, so that could throw a person off. But, you know, you got to just stick to the storyboard, if you know what I mean.
Right. For sure. So where do you think the Knicks are going to go this year?
Well, you know, I think in a way, I think it's interesting because I think in a way they might benefit from not signing these guys, you know? I know they were horrible last year, but I liked the direction. I liked the youth. I liked building through the draft, bringing in a couple of nice pieces. Believe it or not, you know, I was a huge Phil Jackson fan. I mean, when I saw Michael Jordan play in like 1987 or something live in person, I became, you know, strictly a Bulls fan for the next 20 years. And so I've always been a big fan of Phil Jackson. I always thought he did pretty good stuff. You know, it was a good draft for him, getting Kristaps. And, you know, he got rid of some guys and contracts. And, yeah, he did some things, like he gave Joakim Noah that contract. But that's the kind of guy that walks in an office and gets that contract. He's all personality, he's all team, he's all defense. He got that contract, but he got rid of some too. And I think he got a bad rap, to be honest. I like the guy. I know he was doing his work. It just doesn't seem that way, but he really was, and he had a sick team around him. I like what they're doing now. Build through the draft. RJ, Zion would have been cooler. If the Zion thing happens for the Knicks, which it should have, they should have just given the Knicks Zion, then you probably would have seen the free agents come. It's interesting how that one piece changed things. But I'm happy for the Nets. I'm a little bit more into the Nets than I am the Knicks in a way because, I was born in Brooklyn and grew up in New Jersey. So I have, I remember going to the Nets games as a kid, Chris Morris, Buck, what was his name? Buck Rogers, Buck Walter. What was his name? He ended up Buck Williams. He played on the 90s Blazers teams that were challenging the Bulls a bit there with Clyde Drexler, and he was a big piece of them. But he was an early net that I liked. And then, the Jason Kidd Nets were cool.
Vince
and,
Carter.
They went to back-to-back finals, and they just couldn't push it through. Couldn't get through Shaq, I believe. It was Shaq and Kobe back then. I mean, that was impossible. But they, that was fun. And the Knicks, I just never got into the Patrick Ewing Knicks. But I kind of like what's happening now. I'd love to see, RJ become a star and build more through the draft. But, dude, they're sold out every game. It doesn't even matter. And I think, they might have dodged a bullet not getting some of these free agents. So I think in a way it's cool. It's kind of like the Yankees dodging giving up the farm to get Greinke or one of these sort of middle of the road guys. I think it was strong to not give up their position. I like that.
Right. Now, one last question before.
But the Nets are interesting. It'll be interesting. And it's funny, when I did the anthem there last, it was a Kyrie game. Kyrie didn't play, but there was just a buzz that he was around. He was in this black suit, and he was bouncing around a little bit, and I kind of brushed shoulders with him walking by, and I was like, oh, okay, that's Kyrie, all right. And then sure enough, they swapped him out for D'Angelo Russell, who was a great player for them. He was such a good player. I don't know that Kyrie's going to actually be more productive than that, but he's a way bigger star. He's a little younger. Maybe they're the same age.
No, I think Kyrie might be 2 years older.
Definitely more prone to injury.
Yeah, Kyrie might be 2 years older, I think. D'Angelo's 24. Kyrie might be 26.
So, I don't know what it's a little 6 1/2 dozen. Kyrie's definitely a big star, but, interesting. He misses a lot of games. He's got a lot of attitude. So they say, let's see. Durant, is he the same player when he comes back? The core of the Nets team was great. What they've been playing with for the last 2 years, they have 10 guys. They got cool players, cool role players. And that's what I like. Anyway, you were saying?
Well, I was going to say, last thing before we wrap it up. On American Idol, what are your thoughts on, people who didn't win the show, like yourself, Kelly Pickler, Jennifer Hudson, Jordan Sparks, who became big stars even though they didn't win? What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's a tribute to the people at Idol that know how to discover talent. Remember, we all went through that cattle call and stood at a table in front of 1 million people and only got 10 bars to sing so they could see a little glimpse of us, and then we could move on. So, to be honest, they noticed it first. I mean, I had been working. I had done some big projects before Idol and all that, but thank you to Idol for that opportunity, But again, it's about turning your time on the show into something. Jennifer is one of the biggest stars in the world, but she, probably should have won her year, but she kind of disappeared a little bit into obscurity. She didn't have the internet at the time to keep her stuff out there and content, and booking Dreamgirls, by the way, she beat out Fantasia for that part, who was also up for that part. And they had passed on them both several times over, I had heard, and they kept searching, and then they brought them back in. And then Jennifer booked it, and she won an Oscar. And her life changed, you know, and she's a massive star. Forget it. But, you know, it's interesting what you could turn an opportunity into. Kelly, you mentioned, dear friend of mine, you know, has a very popular morning talk show that is syndicated now, Pickler and Ben or something like that, and she put out country records. She's done some hosting. You know, we work so hard. We have to, like, diversify ourselves. You can't just be a rock star, just be this. You know, you have to go with it, man. So, you know, there are also a lot of people that didn't win that just have good careers, good, solid working careers. You know, someone I mentioned earlier, Ace Young, you know, he's producing records. He's doing some acting. He's got a Grammy nomination for his work on the Daughtry record, the first one. You know, Chris, of course, is touring nonstop. I mean, there are a lot of people. You know, someone like a Brandon Rogers, who was in a huge season 5, the season after me. I was just touring with him. One of the best singers, songwriters, piano players I know. You know, he just hustling. He has a big corporate band he tours with. He does big, you know, corporate gigs, and, you know, he's got a living. So there are many tiers, and it's like, how does one measure success? Like I said, you know, I'd rather have that long, slow burn than those big, you know, 4th of July moments, you know, scattered about. I'd rather have the slow burn, you know, for decades. So that's what I'm striving for, and that's what I sort of put out there, and I've gotten to do great things, and very excited about the new record, my first in many years. It's called Until I'm Wanted. Until I'm Wanted. All original songs on Noble Steed Records. Putting it out independently. The first few singles are actually out, All About You. You can find on Spotify and iTunes and, you know, all the streaming services. Just punch in my name, Constantine Maroulis, and it'll be there. Until I'm Wanted, I did a Kickstarter, my first crowdfund effort, and that will be out by the end of the year. Definitely this year. We're excited about the record, putting some finishing touches on some songs as we speak, going back into the studio today. So all new and original tunes. Really excited. Sort of my love letter to rock and roll. So that'll be out soon. And, you know, follow me on Instagram for all the updates. I got tour dates all the time. I'm playing Friday night. I'm playing Saturday night. You know, there's dates all the time. I'm doing a rock cruise this Friday night. And I'm doing this movie. And, you know, we got a couple of movies coming out. So just, you know, stay in touch. And hopefully I'll see your fans at one of my shows soon. Got some shows coming up in September. In New York City, Birdland is September 23rd. That's going to be a great show.
And where can all the listeners follow you on social media at?
Yeah, at Constantine Maroulis.
All right.
It'll pop right up, I promise.
All right,
and you can always go to ConstantineMaroulis.com, ConstantineMaroulis.com for other stuff, info, tour dates, whatnot.